Please join Michael Voris on July 15th through 17th for a second annual weekend retreat in Bloomington, Indiana, at the grounds of the Franciscan Friars of Immaculate. The retreat's theme will be the Church Triumphant, and we'll discuss the current crisis in the church, as well as our response in charity and boldness. Please click on the link for registration details and information. God bless. Hello and welcome to today's edition of Catholic News Roundup. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Rhode Island rejects true marriage. Attention has turned to Rhode Island in the same-sex marriage debate since New York passed their same-sex marriage law. Rhode Island announced their approval of so-called homosexual union after the Senate has approved their version of a law that passed through the House in May. The latest vote, scored 21-16, will go to the state's governor, Lincoln Chafee, who said he would sign the measure if it passed through the two chambers. In contrast to New York's latest law, however, Rhode Island gives a wide berth to religious ministers with a conscience clause. United Nations awakening. The UN and other international organizations have come to the realization that abortions, particularly gender-targeting ones, result in demographic and ultimately economic crisis. Zenet.org says the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, also known as PACE, filed a motion inviting its countries to, quote, condemn sex-selective abortion whenever and wherever it occurs. PACE's motion is up for a vote in October and says that prenatal killing of females can dangerously undermine the sustainability of entire national economies, as seen in China, India, Taiwan, South Korea, and even some European countries. 5 UN agencies also issued a joint statement earlier this month on preventing gender-biased sex selection. Ohio cuts abortion funding. Ohio residents are waiting for their pro-life governor, John Kasich, to sign its new budget, already approved by the rest of the state government. The budget will ban abortions at public hospitals, among other pro-life amendments. The end result of the new budget is that abortion funding will be significantly cut. Mike Gonadakis, executive director of Ohio Right to Life, says, quote, it is crystal clear that a vast majority of Ohioans oppose all forms of taxpayer funding of abortion, end quote. Ohio will join Indiana, North Carolina, Kansas, and Wisconsin in defunding abortion. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few seconds.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by NewOxfordReview.org, the voice of Catholic Orthodoxy, in print and on the web, and RenewAmerica.com, expanding the influence of America's grassroots in the cause of freedom.
Forced abortion trial. A former naval officer is on trial for the murder of his mistress and their unborn child. Petty Officer Zachary Littleton allegedly tried to force his girlfriend, Samira Watkins, to get an abortion, but she refused. Littleton's attorney, Sharon Wilson, says she thinks there's not much evidence linking the man to the murder. According to her opening statement, this case is but one of a trend of mothers victimized by significant others when they refuse to get an abortion. When voters choose, we lose. A top homosexual blog is complaining about the undeniable fact that when it comes to legalizing same-sex marriage, they need the legislature. A writer on Queerty.com says, quote, even LGBT organizers agree that they'd rather pass marriage equality by legislature than at the ballot, because at the ballot, we always lose, end quote. This recognition of Americans' belief in the true definition of marriage was supported by a poll taken in the state of New York right before it legalized gay marriage, which points out that 57% of voters in the state support marriage as, quote, only between one man and one woman. LifeSite News says efforts to put true marriage into law or state constitution have won majority approval in over 30 states where it has been proposed. You can read more about it by clicking on the link to our resource page right over here. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure and tune in tomorrow for your daily dose of Catholic News Roundup right here on RealCatholicTV.com. And be sure to check out The Vortex today, where Michael comes to us from the streets of Ireland's capital. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure and tell all your friends about us. And as always, God bless you.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by PewSitter.com, your online Catholic newspaper for the third millennium, CatholicMediaCoalition.org, in line with the Church, online with the world.
And TheAmericanCatholic.com, politics and culture from a Catholic perspective.